Hello everybody, before we get to the video, I just want to let you all know that we are once again running a giveaway for the League of Legends Partner Program codes. This time around, we are giving away codes for the Papercraft Anivia skin as well as the exclusive Green Chroma. If you would like a chance to win one of these codes, all you have to do is leave a like on the video, drop a comment down below, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Best of luck in the giveaway, and now let's get into the video. What's going on, Nasteey Nation? It's Nasteey, and today's video is going to be full of support tips and tricks to help you become a better support player. Although I have already put together a good amount of guides for support champions on my channel, I realized the other day that there are still so many picks that I am yet to discuss on this channel. And considering making guides for each champion is nearly impossible, I've decided to make this video instead. In this video, I'm going to be covering every single individual support champion in the game and offering some tips and tricks that may very well help you take your pick to the next level. This is, however, my first time doing something like this, so if you do go on to enjoy this format and this type of video, then be sure to let me know down in the comment section below and leave a thumbs up, and maybe I can put together a part 2 down the road. Without further ado though, let's get into it. Let's start things off at the very top of the list with Alistar. Alistar is a great pick when a team comp is in desperate need of engage due to his very reliable and impactful combo. Although Alistar surely brings some other things to the table besides his combo, it's certainly the main reason he is picked, which is why messing up the combo is something you simply cannot afford to do. In order to prevent this from happening, be sure to wait for the W animation to begin before casting Q rather than pressing both keys simultaneously. Bard is a champion that packs quite the punch and is capable of putting out a good amount of damage if played properly. However, both his auto and his Q, which are his only forms of doing damage, are quite short range, which can at times make it very difficult to output damage. In order to compensate for this specifically in the lane phase, be sure to utilize the minions by using your Q on them to increase the range of your Q, stun your enemies, and then give you the opportunity to freely auto attack and proc your passive. Laning hooks in the lane phase as Blitzcrank can be quite difficult when the enemy is hidden behind minions. You could of course step to the side of the wave to create a clear line of sight, but even then the hook is not guaranteed. Instead, you can surprise your enemy by simultaneously clearing the minion wave with your R and then casting Q immediately after. More times than not, the enemy won't expect the support to be the one to clear the minion wave and will thus catch them off guard and make them vulnerable. The most commonly used combo for Brand to land a stun is EQ then W. When executing this combo, however, the enemy will typically begin to sidestep as soon as they are set ablaze by the E, thus making it very difficult for the Q to land. Instead, you can cast Q first, then E to surprise the enemy with a stun. This can be fairly difficult to do, but as long as the E is casted before the Q hits the enemy, then the stun will be effective. Braum's passive can only be procced if Braum himself is the one who initiates on an enemy, using either his Q or an auto attack. Rather than wasting your flash to auto the enemy or potentially casting and missing your Q, always look to nearby allies or minions to jump to and gap close on your enemy as a way to initiate a fight. Jumping to your minion wave in the lane is especially important when it comes to setting up ganks. Fiddlestick's support is not a super common pick, but more times than not when picked, people often take Airy as their go-to rune. Instead, I'd recommend taking Aftershock. Aftershock is the preferred rune of choice from just about every single challenger player that I've seen play this champion due to Fiddle's point-and-click fear making it very easy to proc. This also makes it so that he's a lot tankier after initiating with his ult. Although shielding your ADC as Janna is typically the best option, oftentimes during the lane phase it can be more beneficial to instead walk up to the enemy, cast the shield on yourself, and trade with your autos and your W. Although Janna is not known for her damage output, she's still very capable of winning trades, just due to the fact that she is able to negate a lot of damage while also being able to output a good amount. When it comes to playing Karma, more times than not, people like to use her ultimate and then use her Q after for the Mantra Q for a lot of additional damage. However, this is only what you want to be doing during the early stages of the game. What I would recommend is using Mantra Q during the early stages of the game, Mantra E during the mid to late game, and only use Mantra W if you need the extra CC or if you need the extra HP. Leona is a great champion when it comes to engaging teamfights, but her combo is not always perfect. In fact, if you use her standard combo of EQ then ultimate for the CC chain, there's actually a split second in which the enemy has a time to flash away. Instead, what you can do to fix this combo is casting E first, then R, and then Q. By doing so, not only are you animation canceling with the E and the ultimate, but you're also going to have a perfect CC chain. Lulu is a really flexible champion that can either play a little bit of aggressive or can also be a little bit more passive and use her kit for the sake of peeling. If you are looking to play a little bit more aggressive and be a bit of a pest during the lane phase, I would recommend that you're using her Q on one champion and then cast that off to the other, rather than using this off of minions. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll cast their picks on the minions, and then from the minions they'll cast their Q and hit a champion. By doing so though, you're only hitting one champion, so again, start with one champion and use your Q to the other, that way you're hitting both and doing more damage. When it comes to playing Morgana, the biggest mistake that I see players making is starting her Q instead of her W. The only time I would recommend starting Q is if you are invading, but other than that, I think it's much more beneficial to be starting W, and just about every challenger player that plays Morgana will agree with this. Starting W is going to allow you to have a reliable form of poke, it's also going to start proccing your Aerie, and it's also going to be proccing your support item. It's not going to do as much damage as if you were able to land your Q, but it's more reliable. On top of that, if you start Q and you miss it at level 1, you're going to be very vulnerable for the remaining of the cooldown, and that is going to be really bad because you are going to lose control of the minion wave. So instead, it's better to start off with W, get that reliable poke, and be able to stay in the lane and control the wave. The tip that I'm going to offer for Nami is very similar to Janna in the sense that both of these champions have the ability to win trades, not by doing a ton of damage, but by negating a bunch of damage while also putting out a good amount of damage. When it comes to trading with Nami, you can first auto attack the enemy and then cast your E on yourself mid-air. This is going to be faster than casting E on yourself first and then autoing. While you're autoing, you can then cast your W on yourself. You're going to put out a lot of damage to them, also healing up in the process, which is going to allow you to win the trade in the long run. Nautilus support is picked mainly for his engage, but when it comes to engaging as Nautilus, you have to be very smart when pulling the trigger. Compared to some other champions like Alistar who can engage, then pop his ulti and walk out of the fight untouched, or at least alive, once you engage as Nautilus, you are going to be in a very sticky situation, and more times than not, you're not going to be tanky enough or have any form of disengage to get out of the fight. So again, you need to be very smart when it comes to pulling the trigger as Nautilus, because engaging as Nautilus is a one-way street. A big mistake that I see people making on Pyke is using his Q as soon as it is fully charged. Instead, it is much more beneficial to hold onto the Q until the very last second where it is about to fade away. By holding onto your ability for this long, what you are going to do is force the enemy to show which direction that they're going to run. While you're charging it up the whole time, the enemy is most likely going to be sidestepping back and forth, waiting for you to cast it, and eventually they're going to get impatient and show the direction that they're truly walking. It is then that you want to then use your Q and hook them back towards you. Rakan is a super powerful champion when it comes to initiating teamfights and engaging, but a lot of people try to get too fancy with his combos. When it comes to playing Rakan, sometimes simplicity is key, and instead of doing all this fancy stuff where you first cast your ultimate, then walk through the enemies for the charm, and then W, instead it could be a lot better to just simply use your RW combo instantly and get the guaranteed charm and knockup. Although using your charm first, walking around, and then using your W is going to be a longer CC chain, it can be very difficult to do in the late game. It's going to be very difficult to do in teamfights, and sometimes when you go for this extended CC chain, you're going to be killed in the process. So again, sometimes simplicity really is key, and when you're playing Rakan, sometimes just a simple RW combo is not only more reliable, but a better choice anyways. Sona is a champion that I feel is often mixed together with the AP support champions, and her playstyle often resembles that, but that is a big mistake that I see people doing. Unlike something like Xerath or Vel'Koz or Brand, Sona, although she does do damage, is not an AP mage. She's not an assassin. So make sure that even though you are capable of putting out a good amount of damage, that you're still positioning correctly in teamfights. Don't try to overextend and output a lot of damage on carries, and instead stick with your carry and peel them and use your abilities to help keep them alive. In Season 8, a very popular method appeared for Soraka that involves her using her E very aggressively, popping Scorch, and being able to output a good amount of damage. However, this mechanic often puts Soraka players in a very dangerous situation because her E in the early stages of the game is on a very long cooldown, and when that is on cooldown, you can be very vulnerable. So although I do think that it is a good idea to use your E for the sake of being aggressive and trying to poke down your enemy, make sure that you're only doing so when you feel that you are in a safe situation. If you don't know where the enemy mid laner is or the enemy jungler is, maybe hold on to that cooldown, because if the enemies appear in your lane, you're going to want that ability up and available to use. Tahm Kench is a bit of a tricky champion because his W, although it can be used to do a lot of damage on enemies, that is not going to be the best way to use it. Instead, when it comes to team fighting as Tahm Kench, always save your W for the sake of saving your teammates and getting them out of sticky situations. Although the damage output is nice, it is not as good as saving one of your teammates. When it comes to playing Taric, the standard max order is going to be maxing your E first, your W second, and your Q third, but that often is not exactly what you want to do. Instead, what you should be doing is putting a second point in your Q at level 4, and that'll allow you to get twice the effectiveness. After that, you still want to go on with the standard EWQ max order, but again, you do want to be putting a second point in Q, even though it is the last skill that you're going to level up. For a very long time now, people have been going back and forth as far as what the best starting item for Thresh is, and I'm just going to put it very simply: do not go Targons on Thresh anymore. I think that taking Ancient Coin is just a far better option, even if you are able to last hit minions with the Targons as Thresh in the lane phase and generate gold that way. It's not going to be nearly as beneficial later into the game because you're not going to be able to use it when all of your teammates are on 4 or 5 or 6 items and they're clearing the minion waves super fast. You're not going to be able to last hit minions, and for that reason you're not going to be getting gold income. Even though Targons is nice for allowing Thresh to be a little bit tankier, the gold generation that you're losing out on is not worth it, and that's why I think Coin is better in all situations. The next tip that I'm going to offer, I'm going to combine both Vel'Koz and Xerath, and the tip that I'm going to give here is to stay back and utilize the long range that they have. These champions both have extremely long range poke, and they also both have a crowd control ability that can only be used from a short range. But I want to emphasize on this, you do not need to get into close range for your stun. Instead, hold on to your stun for the enemies to come to you, and instead stay back in teamfights for as long as you can and try to utilize that long range poke. Second to last on the list is going to be Zilean, and the piece of advice that I'll offer for Zilean is to not use your QWQ combo too fast. When it comes to double bombing as Zilean, there is a slight delay that you have to put in there, so make sure that you're not just immediately pressing QWQ, and instead be a little bit more patient when it comes to using it. This is something that I struggled with quite a bit, so I would recommend that if you are looking to pick up Zilean and get better at double bombing, that you go into a custom game perhaps, or the training tool, and just practice getting down the timing for the QWQ combo. And finally, the last champion on this list is going to be Zyra. When it comes to playing Zyra, a big mistake that I see people making is not putting down all their plants before using their ultimate, because not a lot of people understand that Zyra's ultimate not only does damage and knocks up, but also makes it so that all of her nearby plants do increasing amounts of damage. So again, whenever it comes to pressing your ultimate as Zyra, make sure that all of your plants are down on the ground first. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, that is going to conclude this video full of just a bunch of support tips and tricks for every single champion. I hope you were able to enjoy this. I hope you were able to find it informative and helpful. If you were, then be sure to leave a like and comment down below, as well as subscribe to the channel to help the channel grow. It is all greatly appreciated. I would also just like to thank each and every one of you who did stick around to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.